This is Heartstrings Stories, the place where the most moving stories of everyday life come to light, stories that touch the soul, awaken empathy, and remind us of the beauty of humanity. If you are someone who believes that kindness, love, and unexpected connections can change the course of a life, then this channel is for you. Today we bring you a story that will stay in your heart long after you hear it, the story of a single dad, a tired cashier, and a moment of truth that changed both of their lives. The evening was painted with the golden hues of the setting sun as Daniel adjusted the straps of his little daughter's backpack. At 34 years old, Daniel had become accustomed to a life of rushing between work, household chores, and being both father and mother to his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Since his wife had passed away 3 years ago in a tragic car accident, his world had shrunk to a singular focus: raising Lily the best he could. That evening, after a long day fixing cars at the auto shop where he worked, he realized they were running low on groceries. Lily, with her big brown eyes, tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, can we get some chocolate milk?" He smiled, weary but soft, and replied, "We'll see, sweetheart." The grocery store was not particularly crowded, just a handful of customers finishing their day, grabbing bread, milk, or quick dinners. Daniel guided the shopping cart through the aisles, tossing in the basics: eggs, bread, cereal, a pack of apples. Lily insisted on choosing herself. He tried to keep the cart light, money was always tight, and he had learned to stretch every dollar. When they approached the checkout line, Daniel noticed the cashier. She was young, maybe in her early 20s, with tired eyes and hair pulled back in a messy bun. Her name tag read Emily. At first glance, she looked like any other cashier, scanning items and forcing polite smiles for each customer. But as Daniel placed his items on the conveyor belt, he noticed something unusual. Her hands were trembling. Not just a little shake, but a noticeable tremor that made the cereal box slip slightly before she caught it. Daniel frowned, concern etching across his face. He wasn't the kind of man who interfered in other people's business, but something about her shook him. He knew exhaustion when he saw it. He knew struggle because he lived it every day. Emily scanned the bread, her fingers trembling so much that the barcode didn't catch the first time. She sighed softly, as if frustrated with herself, and tried again. Lily, curious and innocent, tilted her head and whispered a little too loudly, "Daddy, why are her hands shaking?" Daniel gently hushed her, but the question was already out in the open. Emily froze for a moment, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. She kept her head down, but Daniel noticed the moisture gathering in her eyes. He could have let it go, just smiled politely and left with his groceries, but something inside him wouldn't allow that. He leaned forward slightly and asked in a quiet, gentle voice, "Are you okay? Why are your hands shaking?" The question hung in the air. For a moment, Daniel thought she might snap at him, tell him it was none of his business. Instead, Emily blinked rapidly, her lips parting as if she were struggling to find words. She glanced around to make sure no one else was listening, then whispered something so soft that Daniel had to lean closer to hear. "I haven't eaten in 2 days." The words struck Daniel like a punch to the chest. He blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. She avoided his gaze, continuing to scan the items with trembling hands, but the truth was there, raw and undeniable. 2 days. No food. Daniel's throat tightened. His mind instantly flooded with questions. Why? How? This was a cashier at a grocery store surrounded by food, and yet she was starving. Emily must have seen the confusion in his eyes, because she gave a weak, almost apologetic smile and whispered again, "I give all my money to pay rent and take care of my little brother. He's 14. It's just us. If I don't pay the bills, we'll lose the apartment. So sometimes I go without food." Lily, too young to fully understand but old enough to sense sadness, reached out and gently touched Emily's hand. "Don't be sad," she said softly. "You can have my apple." She held up the red apple she had chosen earlier, her small hand shaking a little as she offered it. That was the moment Daniel felt his heart shatter. The innocence of his daughter, the quiet suffering of this young woman, the weight of 2 families colliding in one unexpected moment. He cleared his throat, his voice thick with emotion. "Emily," he said firmly, "when do you get off work?" Her eyes widened. "In about an hour," she whispered cautiously. Daniel nodded, determination settling over him. Okay. When you're done, you're coming with us. We're going to get you and your brother a hot meal. No arguments. Emily's lips parted, stunned by his insistence. She shook her head weakly. No, I can't. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden, Daniel said with quiet conviction. No one should go 2 days without food. Lily grinned, tugging at Emily's sleeve. Yeah, come eat with us. Daddy makes really good pasta. Daniel chuckled softly at his daughter's enthusiasm, then returned his gaze to Emily. He could see the battle in her eyes, the pride that resisted help and the hunger that begged for relief. Finally, she gave the tiniest nod, tears spilling down her cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. True to his word, Daniel paid for the groceries, added a few extra items when Emily wasn't looking, and after she clocked out, they drove together to his modest apartment. The evening unfolded into something none of them had expected. Emily and her brother James, a shy boy with messy hair and wary eyes, sat at Daniel's kitchen table while Lily chattered happily about school and cartoons. The aroma of pasta and garlic bread filled the air, and for the first time in days, Emily allowed herself to relax, to eat, to feel human again. As they ate, Daniel listened. Emily spoke about how their parents had died in an accident 2 years ago, how she had dropped out of college to take care of James, how she worked long hours just to keep a roof over their heads. Every word was laced with exhaustion but also with love, the same kind of love Daniel carried for Lily. By the time the evening ended, something unspoken had formed between them, a bond built not on romance but on shared struggle, on understanding, on kindness given and received. Daniel walked them to the door, pressing a bag of groceries into Emily's hands despite her protests. Keep it, he said gently. For you and James. She hugged the bag to her chest, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't know how to thank you. You already have, Daniel replied softly. You reminded me that we're never as alone as we think we are. Emily left that night with more than food. She left with hope. And Daniel, as he tucked Lily into bed, realized that sometimes the greatest impact we have on others comes not from grand gestures but from simple acts of compassion, from asking a question as small as "Why are your hands shaking?" This is not just a story about hunger or hardship. It's a story about connection, about seeing the invisible battles others fight, about choosing kindness when it's easier to stay silent. And it's a reminder to all of us, sometimes, the smallest question can open the door to saving someone's world. This was Heartstrings Stories, where real emotions create unforgettable tales. If this story touched your heart, share it, because you never know whose life it might change next.